Now the news at 10 o'clock with Hugh Edwards is next here on BBC One. There's Ab Fab on BBC Two, and it's the one where Eddie tries to get Safi's play closed down. And on BBC Four, it's new. It's called What If? And tonight, Clive Anderson wonders about the Edwina Currie and John Major affair. All you need from the BBC.
The BBC means something different to everyone. Our obligation to you is to inform, educate, and entertain. Your BBC reaches millions of people, and we think we spend...
The racing driver who survived a fireball on the track and lived to tell the story. And the great beer debate. Does our favourite ale lose its magic the further it travels? Hello, it's been the warmest day of the year so far in the region, and I've come to the Suffolk coast to cool off. This is actually Southwold Harbour here, and we've actually had a couple of drops of rain, dare I say. But first of all, we want to see how the region has been coping with this heat wave.
It's official. The roads have started to melt. In Hertfordshire, they're doing their best to stop it sticking.
And as the temperatures increase, the tar starts to soften, and the stone becomes loose on the road surface, and we're sanding down at the moment to try and hold the surface together, to keep the tar together and to get some skidding resistance back in it.
Sea breezes cool down these sun worshippers in Suffolk, but for others the heat wave is an ill wind blowing in no good.
The grass is obviously stuff from years before where you've got...
It's dry as a bone, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Rachel is praying for rain. This forest in Norfolk covers 93 square miles, and by Friday it could be on its highest fire alert.
People are out there, they've got their little portable barbecues at picnic sites, and those hot coals get left on one side that just sit there smouldering. People perhaps don't notice, go home, and that smoulder gets into the trees and potentially a big fire.
As rails expand in the heat, trains are again having to slow down between Peterborough and King's Cross. There's also a 60-mile-an-hour limit on parts of the Norwich to London line.
So it was an hour and 10 minutes late, and it was packed all the way.
Our train was about 15 minutes late from Newcastle, so it wasn't too bad.
Just a 45-minute delay from Newark, which wasn't too bad. I can live with that, so I'm in no hurry. Weather's good, so I don't mind.
Temperatures varied across the region. It reached a pleasant 24 degrees, that's 75 Fahrenheit in Great Yarmouth, 29 Celsius, 84 Fahrenheit at Luton Airport, and in Cambridge it hit 30 degrees, that's 86 Fahrenheit. But the Silverstone circuit in Northamptonshire sweltered at 31 degrees, that's 88 Fahrenheit. At this ice rink they were struggling to keep the ice cold enough for the skaters.
Due to the temperature outside, our plant room's been working really hard to try to keep it as ice, and we had a thin layer of water.
But the dry spell is good for some. Farmers are reaping a good early harvest, and Anglian Water don't expect to impose any hosepipe restrictions. With more sunshine predicted, temperatures are expected to climb even higher tomorrow. It may be fun for these children now, but the heatwave could soon be more of a headache than a blessing. Alex Dunlop, BBC Look East.
Well, it's a lovely temperature here on the coast, and you can actually see the fishing boats here beside me, and just a few yards over there you could buy fresh fish every day. One of the most popular, I guess, is Dover sole. They've been catching sole off the coast here for generations, but today there was bad news for the fleet when they heard they were going to face major restrictions on their catches.
Aldborough. Everywhere you look there are boats. Trouble is, most of them are laid up. Stephen Ashford and Alan Wood are a rare breed. 20 years ago, 20 beach boats fished out of Aldborough. Now there are just 5 left. A handful of men struggling to make a living. Almost all the summer catch is Dover sole, and catches are down.
One day you'll be a bit surprised and get a few, and another day, for about a week, you might not get nothing at all. You know, that's just, you pot luck really, a bit like lottery.
Today's small catch, 25 kilos, value £125. But at the end of this week, strict new quotas will restrict beach boats to a monthly catch of just 200 kilos. Fishermen say soon Aldborough could lose all its boats.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. If you come in 5 years' time, there'd be no one left. I really wouldn't. I mean, unless there's an upturn, you know. at the end of the day, you can't catch what's not there. That's the problem. We've had such a bad year, and that is literally lack of fish.
Rodney Burns spent most of his life fishing, but not anymore. Falling catches meant he's sold his boat and become a gardener.
Well, I certainly don't miss getting up about 1 o'clock in the morning, but no, it was a lovely way of life, you know, and 33 years is a long while, but you know, I just felt the time was right under the circumstances to get out.
Fisheries experts say the restrictions are essential to protect stocks, but the fishermen say it's they who now face being wiped out. Richard Daniel, BBC Look East, Aldborough.
Look at that lovely view of Southwold in the evening light. I've come round to the beer garden of the Harbour Inn in Southwold. Today they're celebrating Adnams because Adnams has won a gold at the beer festival at Olympia. Now you're an Adnams drinker, Colin, aren't you?
Just a little bit.
I can see the pints lining up here.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's best to drink Adnams locally here, or do you like drinking Adnams wherever you go?
Drink it wherever you can, because in this day of spin, that's the only thing you can trust.
a true fan. Because there is a question mark, isn't there, about whether or not beer travels, and Adnams has actually dropped Suffolk from its advertising because it says its beer has to travel all around the country and people haven't always heard of Southwold. Ian Balmer reports.
Beer doesn't get much more local than this. It's served and drunk next door to the brewery.
And Great Eastern beer by Woodford's Brewery always tastes better where it's actually brewed. It's like Adnams, once it crosses the Norfolk border it's not as nice.
At Woodford's on the Norfolk Broads they sell 3/4 of their beer locally. The furthest their lorries deliver is North Essex.
You're always looking to support local companies, so I'm not too fussed about drinking local beer. I will do it to support local companies, yeah.
I'm not a particularly beer drinker myself.
What do you like?
I like lager.
The beer business is big business. Today the Great British Beer Festival opened at London's Olympia, but the campaign for Real Ale, CAMRA, wants to cut the distance that beer travels before we drink it. Local beer for local pubs. For one of the region's big breweries, proof that good beer can travel, Adnams is expanding fast out of its Suffolk heartland throughout southern England. And for the first time it's dropped Southwold from its advertising. Today it won a gold medal for its broadside ale.
They're talking about Adnams as being the beer from the coast, and the further we advertise, the more this theme is relevant to them, even if they haven't heard of Southwold.
The eastern region has more small microbreweries than anywhere else, and there was medal success for the Crouch Vale Brewery in Essex. Its Brewer's Gold Ale won the region's best bitter and came second nationally. Ian Balmer, BBC Look East.
Well, stay with us on Look East as we begin our countdown to the football season. And Kim has been to meet some little chefs facing a big challenge.
Yes, take 6, 11 and 12-year-olds, turn them into chefs in just a week. Nothing to it. And guess who'll be judging their efforts?
Well, I'll be delivering my verdict after the news in your area.
Hello. Unsolved murders and rapes are being reinvestigated in Essex. A special team of detectives are coming out of retirement to work on what are known as cold cases.
Once a detective, always a detective. These men retired just a few months ago, but they're back at their desks and back on the case.
It's what I've been good at for 30 years, and it's really about talking to people, about knowing what makes people tick, attention to detail, and being aware of people's relationships with each other.
We will possibly speak to witnesses who were prominent in the inquiry at the time. We'll probably speak to police officers that worked on cases and really try to gather as much information about the case and the investigation as we can.
Forensic science will play an important part. New developments can lead to criminal convictions years after the original crime. In January 2001, the A1 rapist Stephen Snowden was trapped by his DNA, a decade after attacking a mother of 2. He's currently serving a 12-year sentence.
The police are being rather cagey about which specific cold cases they want to reinvestigate. They don't want to raise expectations, but they did admit to having about 60 serious crimes still unresolved. some of them dating back to the 1960s.
Uncovering the past, hunting down killers. It all smacks of the recent BBC series Waking the Dead, in which a hotshot team vowed to solve the so-called cold cases. The reality, however, looks set to be rather different.
I don't think there's any of the glamour that there might be in TV representations of that type of police job. Make no mistake, this is hard work that's going to be engaged in, and it's meticulous work.
Preparations are in place, and before too long, files will start being reopened. Amelia Reynolds, BBC Look East.
Plans to improve an accident black spot in Suffolk have been given the go-ahead. There have been a number of fatal accidents on the A14 at the Rookery Crossroads near Bury St Edmunds. Work is expected to start next spring and will cost £5 million. Norwich Union has announced which of its staff are to lose their jobs. Last month, the parent company, Aviva, announced 300 posts were going in Norwich. Those who are staying have been told what their new roles will be. One of the country's top drag bike riders is recovering after being engulfed in a fireball during a high-speed run. Ian King from Cambridgeshire was taking part in a meeting in Sweden.
Ian King begins the ride of his life, but at 190 miles an hour, a fuel line shatters. Even at high speed, Ian thinks about jumping off, but clings on, protected from the inferno only by his leathers.
I lifted my legs here to try and get them out of the fire, the intense heat, but unfortunately, as you can see, the flames were all around me, so it didn't really help that much.
Ian suffered third-degree burns and may yet require skin grafts. On the other hand, he is still alive.
I think it's just instinct at the end of the day. I mean, you don't know why you do something in particular, you just do. All I knew was that, the bike was heading towards the wall and then towards the centre lane, and I just had to try and keep it as straight as possible.
Back at home, Ian is hoping for a quick return to the track. He rides Britain's most powerful motorbike. It reaches 240 miles an hour and does 0 to 60 in 0.7 seconds. He built his first bike at the age of 12 and he's happy to admit an addiction to the high-octane sport, despite its dangers.
I don't particularly like watching it anyway, and I think I'm relieved when he gets to the other end. But, that's his chosen sport.
The incident proved one thing: motorbike leathers are a real lifesaver. As metal melted around him, the leathers protected Ian from the worst of the inferno. No such protection for 7-year-old Georgina, whose own bike accident has left her a companion in pain with her father. James Blatch, BBC Look East, Cambridgeshire.
Now, plans to build new houses in the region usually run into stiff opposition, but not so in the quaint village of Girton on the outskirts of Cambridge. When a housing developer announced plans for new homes, they jumped at the chance. Rawdon Christie has been to find out why.
Girton near Cambridge. It's a typical, fairly affluent village, much like hundreds of others in the region.
But here there's a difference, a very, very big difference. Girton has just sold some land, and the village is now £12.5 million richer.
So this is the plan that Wimpy's hoping to build to. It's in with South Cambs for
It's 9 acres of pasture land given to the village in Victorian times. Now it's been sold to a housing developer.
We've actually asked the villagers to come forward with suggestions. We're also looking at various groups within the village to see if they can identify what the needs of the village are and see if we can meet those needs.
Over 200 homes are planned for the land, but for the 4,500 villagers it means £1,000 a day in interest alone.
Normally we wouldn't see a penny of it, but actually the fact that it's coming to the village is great.
Maybe an actual purpose-built youth club with which can be used for other means as well.
Personally, being a film buff, I'd probably go for a cinema.
Of course, they're not allowed to spend it on just anything, but what if they could?
Well, they could afford 280 Porsches, that's one between every 16 residents, or a Caribbean holiday for the entire village, maybe 3,000 ice creams each, or they could even afford half of David Beckham. OK, so back to reality. It's likely to be spent on care, education, transport, useful things like that. Alas, no plans for a village swimming pool just yet. Rawdon Christie, BBC Look East, Cambridgeshire.
In cricket, Nasser Hussain has been in sparkling form for Essex. The former England captain is 150 not out in their day-night match against Glamorgan at Chelmsford. Essex are now on 252 for 5 with 4 overs left. Thousands of commuters are facing delays this evening after an incident at Liverpool Street Station. All trains were suspended for half an hour during rush hour and the station building was evacuated. Trains are running normally this evening, but speed restrictions are still in place because of the hot weather. The maximum speed on the line, 60 miles an hour. That's it from me. Let's go back to Susie at Southwold in Suffolk. Bye for now.
Hello and welcome back to Southwold, where the sun is still shining. Now, you've probably heard about the BBC's Restoration Project, which is a new series starting on BBC Two this Friday. Well, Look East has been looking back at some of the region's historic buildings and the work being done to repair them. Tonight it's the country's oldest folly. Preston Tower is 450 years old.
It was a skyscraper of its day, 6 floors of the latest building technology. The man behind it was a Suffolk merchant, Thomas Gooding. He had just made his fortune and was a bit, well, flash.
It's a bit of a mystery why it was built, in fact. It could have been built as a folly, it could have been built as a lookout tower. What's sure is that it was built as an example of wealth, a chance to show off in the best, most spectacular architecture how rich you were.
These days its beauty is hidden behind a veil of scaffolding. It's now owned by the Landmark Trust, a charity which restores historic buildings and then lets them as holiday homes. The materials they're using are as old as England itself. Clay for bricks comes from Bulmer in Essex. It's mixed into a thick, chocolatey paste and then moulded by hand.
Our aim with the bricks at Preston is to try to match it as near as possible the original bricks. In the case of the brick I'm holding in my hand, which is a coping on the turret, we've actually used a technique of damp sand and get a wet appearance to it, which will soften it so that when it goes into the building it will match very closely to the original.
Scott here used to be a baker, and he can still turn out a perfect mould every time. The fresh bricks are dried in rows before being stacked in the kiln, ready to be baked. And if they're made by hand, they're laid just as carefully. When the work is done, these will be luxury rooms with a view. But 4 centuries ago, the lady of the manor used the tower as her own personal school.
Well, she didn't need to worry too much about PE. There's 6 floors of stairs to keep her in shape here. On day 1, she had embroidery on the ground floor. Day 2, it was geography on the next floor up, and so on, until finally, on the last day, she made it up here to the roof terrace, where she had the open Suffolk sky above her to study astronomy.
Now the tower will be a stairway to heaven once again, and its colourful past won't stay shut away any longer. Jack Izzard, BBC Look East, Preston.
Just a reminder that the first programme in the BBC Two Restoration series is on Friday at 9 p.m, and that's with Griff Rhys-Jones. Now, it's all very nice in this heat if you're sitting in a pub garden, but imagine if you were having to train. That's what our professional footballers are having to do. With only 4 days to go to the start of the new season, Ian Winter reports on the new boys at Ipswich Town.
First, a toast to absent friends. Good riddance to some, good wishes to others, good news for the club's wage bill. They've all gone, and 3 new boys have arrived in town. Take a good look. These are the heads, the hands, the feet that Joe Royle believes will make Ipswich a force to be reckoned with.
I keep saying there's no excuses this time. We start with the same points as everybody else. We're 3 players better off, and I'm confident.
Introducing Kelvin Davis, aged 26, born in Bedford, the former Luton goalkeeper has played for the England under-21s.
I was more than happy to sign on the line and get on with my Ipswich career, because you don't have to ask too many people about Ipswich Town, and that and my brother-in-law being an avid Ipswich fan, I was under a bit of pressure.
Drissa Diallo is 30, born in Mauritania. He's a central defender.
It's not an easy challenge because first division is very tough, but I'm confident we can do well.
And this is George Santos. He's 33 next week, born in Marseille. The physical Frenchman can play in defence or midfield.
I'm a physical man. That's English football, so that's why I came in England. And sometimes, in first division,
when you play some team, Rotherham, Sheffield United, something like that, we have to be very strong.
All three new faces have already given the Ipswich defence a more solid look, and up front the Blues don't expect to find goal scoring a problem, with Pablo Cunago on hand to complement the bent double act of Darren and Marcus. And elsewhere, an old boy has a new job. Jim Magilton was hit for 6 when the boss asked him to captain the Blues. He won't get done for speeding in midfield, but he'll certainly be signing plenty of autographs if he leads Town back into the Premiership next May. Ian Winter, BBC Look East, Ipswich.
And tomorrow night we report on Rushden and Diamonds in the run-up to the football season. Now, apart from those few drops of rain I mentioned, we've had a lovely evening here in Southwold. We know it's been baking hot all day, but what does the weather hold in store? Here's Ivor.
Thank you, Susie. Yeah, I think it's going to stay pretty settled right through the week and indeed the weekend. We have indeed seen more cloud around today, though it's been at fairly high levels, but it has produced these little showery bits of rain from time to time. And indeed, I think we'll hang on to that as we go through this evening and tonight. So a fair bit of cloud around, just the odd little showery bit of rain here and there. In between times when the cloud does break, it will turn a little bit misty and murky because the winds will be generally light inland from the east or the southeast. What we can assure you, it is going to be another one of those very mild and muggy nights. These are the lowest temperatures, 16 is 61 Fahrenheit. Now tomorrow morning, a bit of a mixed start. We'll have some of that mist and cloud, perhaps the odd showery bit left over, but it'll clear quite quickly in the morning, brighten up I think with sunshine increasing all the time. The winds will be from the southeast still, and look at those temperatures, that's by lunchtime. As we go to the west in the afternoon, you'll notice they're up probably higher than today, 34 Celsius, which is 93 Fahrenheit. With light winds, it is going to feel pretty warm. As far as the east is concerned, a similar sort of story, but the good news here is that we do hang on to these onshore winds. They are going to be refreshing breezes coming in, just holding those temperatures down to more comfortable levels on the coast. So as far as the 5 days concerned, well, we've seen tomorrow it's going to be lovely, and indeed with high pressure staying in control right the way through the week, plenty of warm sunshine during the day, little bit of mistiness at night. On the downside, I'm afraid, it does mean that temperatures stay up at night as well, so they are going to be very warm and humid nights, but by day absolutely glorious. And with that, well, it's back to Susie in Southwold.
Thanks, Ivor. Just look at those temperatures. I can't believe it. Now, it's one thing, isn't it, to cook a Delia Smith recipe for your friends at home, but imagine cooking for Delia herself in her own kitchen. That was the challenge that faced a group of school children today. Kim Riley has been along to the Carrow Road kitchens to see how they got on.
Kitchen crew reporting for duty. A week ago, their idea of a sophisticated meal was pizza and chips. But in culinary terms, the 11 and 12-year-olds from Cossey High School have gone upmarket, applying the chili sauce glaze to Asian focaccia bread.
Pieces of meringue, pieces of strawberry, dollops of cream.
The ingredients of another Delia delicacy. Posh Nosh from a posh school, they call it the Eton mess. An excuse to really get stuck in.
It does look like a real mess, but it's not going to look as big a mess in the bowl. 3 out of the 6 that we've had in here said they want to become chefs when they leave school, and would like to go to college and would like to come and work here, which is great for us. And I think the others, as I've said to them, even if they don't become full-time chefs, they'll always get a girlfriend if they can cook.
In the restaurant, Jamie and James are putting final touches to the tables. During the week's course organised by the University of the First Age, the students have done everything from designing the menus to ordering the food. Back in the kitchen, the smoked mackerel pâté with ricotta and capers is being given an appropriate green and yellow garnish. It's looking good, but the very name Delia reduces them to jelly.
Just scary.
Scary?
Yeah. It makes me sweat just thinking about it.
Yeah? Frightened of her?
Oh yeah.
They were all a bit frightened at the thought of you coming in, you know.
I don't know why, because I've spent 33 years trying to create recipes that anybody can cook. I'm not a great, marvellous, wonderful chef, but anybody, I pride myself in the fact that anybody can cook my recipes, and if they've done well today, then I should give myself a pat on the back.
3 courses successfully delivered in little over an hour. From waiters and little chefs, a flawless performance. Kim Riley, BBC Look East at Carrow Road.
Well, the food looks very nice there, but on the menu here is crab. Here are Phoebe and Jessica. Very impressive looking crab there. Was it easy to catch?
No.
How long have you been fishing?
About an hour almost.
Oh, well, are you going to put it back in the water now?
Yeah.
Well done to you. That's almost it from us for this evening. Enjoy the sunshine. We're going to leave you with some pictures of people doing just that. Goodbye.
My life was torn like the wind-blown sand. The rock was formed when we held hands. Sunny was so true. I love you. I love you. Oh, my Sunny, Sunny was so true.
Welcome back. The Prime Minister's spokesman has apologised unreservedly for referring to the Iraqi weapons expert Dr. David Kelly as a Walter Mitty-like fantasist. The Deputy Prime Minister, John Prescott, has also sent an apology to the widow of Dr. Kelly. His funeral will take place near his home in Oxfordshire tomorrow. A car bomb has killed at least 14 people in the capital of Indonesia in what appears to have been a suicide attack. The explosion destroyed a hotel popular with Westerners in Jakarta and injured 150 people. Police say it was similar to the explosion which destroyed a nightclub in Bali last October. Police are appealing for information after a gang of thieves armed with machetes and guns made away with £400,000 worth of valuables. The gang took less than 5 minutes to clear 2 jewellery shops in central Manchester. Their loot included a diamond-encrusted Rolex watch worth £30,000. And today has officially been the hottest day of the year. The heatwave baked much of the country with temperatures as high as 34.6 degrees Celsius, that's 94 degrees Fahrenheit in Jersey. Forecasters say it could be even hotter tomorrow. There's a roundup of all the day's news from around the world on BBC4 at 8 o'clock. We're back tomorrow at 6. See you then. Good evening.
In his day, there were none better. Jackie Milburn, Newcastle. He was always a hero, man. He used to love him.
Everybody loved him, Jackie Milburn, wore Jackie. Way high.
He was such a lovely guy, and he would do anything to help anybody, and that just made him even more special.
For a second he hesitates, but he's not offside, and now all by himself Milburn streaks through to put Newcastle ahead.
Hello there. We've broken some temperature records today, and tomorrow, yes, it could be even a little bit hotter. 35 Celsius in Jersey, 34.6 is the warmest day in the British Isles so far this year. 33 in Anglesey is the warmest ever recorded. Many places up to 30 Celsius and beyond. Not quite so hot along parts of the east coast though. Some mist here, pegging the temperatures back to 18 or 19, a good deal more comfortable. 18 or 19 overnight though is far from comfortable. A sultry night again, perhaps no lower than 22 Celsius in the southeastern corner. The warmest temperature ever recorded in the British Isles by day is 37.1 Celsius at Cheltenham, almost 13 years ago to the day. Will we beat that tomorrow? Well, there is a chance, probably about a 1 in 3 chance. Certainly 35, 36, I say possibly in that southeast corner we might reach 37. Cooler though down across the Channel Islands, and a little bit cooler across the West Midlands as well, but another pretty hot day for most. Again, the coast is the place to head, more comfortable here. And that'll be the theme for the next few days as well. Tomorrow likely to be the hottest day of the week, but still we retain those dark orange colours, we retain the heat wave right the way up to and including the weekend. 1 or 2 showers around though come Wednesday morning, especially across eastern areas. They'll be fizzling out through the day. Again, misty around some eastern coast and down to the southwest, probably starting off rather grey here, but it should brighten up for many another hot and sunny day. We've already seen the temperatures, but just a reminder that sun is still very strong. Little change into Thursday, again basically hot and sunny, perhaps not quite as hot. Again around the coast some cooling sea breezes, but still some mist. Little change into Friday as well. Good evening.